Hello everyone, today I am going to connect my client project with the backend that was implemented by Node and Express.js. So, first of all, you can see here the two projects on my desktop client are in Node demo. The client project was implemented for a simple authentication system for login and registration. And backend project was implemented to save and provide the data and its communicate with the MongoDB database. So to combine this two project, we need to move the client project inside the backend project. I am using the Visual Studio Code as editor. To open the project with VS Code, open a terminal window and go inside the Node demo project. Then run the command code. You can see here the project on VS Code. Now open another terminal and go inside the client project. Let's create a service app HTTP, which responsibility to handle all server requests such as add headers. To create the service I am using the Angular CLI command. I want to create the services inside the services folder, that's why I add that before the service name. Make sure you are inside the client project. Let's open the service file and add the get method. Get method take the URL as a parameter, which is my API endpoint. To call the API, first of all, we need to inject HTTP service from Angular HTTP. Back to the get method and call the get method of HTTP with URL as a parameter. We can also send the request options with the HTTP method. For this, create a method getHeaders to generate the headers of a request. Here I only append the content type for JSON. You can add more if needed, maybe authorization token is another one. You may notice that I am not importing the headers manually, it's imported automatically by auto import versus extensions. As the method take request options as a parameter. So we need to create another method get request options for that. It's create an instance of request options and add the header by calling the getHeader method. Finally, return the instance. Now call this method from the get method to pass the request options. Now time for post method. Copy and paste the get method and add another parameter data, which is any type. Change the name of the HTTP method, get to post, and pass the data as a second parameter. Now we need the auth service for user registration and login. Let's create auth service by CLI command. We need to add two methods to register and authenticate the user. From this method, we will call the methods of our app HTTP service system for login and registration. So first inject the app HTTP. I also forget to add the service to the app.moodle.ts file. So go to the file and add this to services in the provider section. You must import this to services at the top of the file. For my case, this is auto-imported by the extension. Now back to the register user method and call the get method of the app HTTP service and pass the URL of the API endpoint. You can see the API endpoint for the user registration by going to the user root files. Notice here the register API, which is instantiated as a user in the server.js file. Now pass the URL. Also, you need to pass the user data for the registration, so the service takes the register model as input and pass that. See, the user model has three properties: name, email, and password that is needed for the user registration. We need to map the server response, that's why we need to add an additional operator, map_slits. Import that from our Rex.js. With the help of map operator, we take the response and convert to JSON. Do the same thing for the authenticate user method. Copy and paste the code and change the parameter from register model to login model. Login model contain two property, email and password. See the endpoint for login from user root file and change it. Now it's time to build our client project to the Node server. For that, we need to change the output directory from angular_cli.json file. Open it and change the output directory from this to public. Open the command window. You can see here there is no public directory currently. Let's build our client project by running ng-build command to make sure you are in the client project. Client project builds successfully. You can see in the server.js file we already make the public folder as static and the index file inside this folder is set as the landing page. To run Node server, first of all, we need to run MongoDB database. You can see here the database URL. We need another command window to run the MongoDB server and ensure that you open the window as an administrator. I am going to the root of C directory because my MongoDB database is situated inside the data folder of that directory. Now run the command mongo-data. You can see a little typo as here. Let me fix and run again. See, my MongoDB server is running on port 27017. To explore the MongoDB database I am using have MongoDB Compass. Open it and connect to the database. See here I have 4 databases. I am using the last on NodeDB for this project. Go inside it and see the user's documents. Only 2 users exist currently. This 2 was created when I test the API. Now back to the terminal of NodeDemo project and run the command nodemon. If you are not similar to nodemon, please watch my previous tutorials. You can see our server is connected to the database. Let's go to the browsers and check it. The application is running as you see in the previous tutorial. See, the registration and login form and home window are working as before. Now it's time to call the service from the component. Back to the client project and open the registration.component.ts file. Go inside the onRegisterSubmit method. Previously you just alert the information that was filled by the user. Comment it and add register user method of auth service. To do so we need to inject the auth service as we did before at constructor. Call the register user method and pass the user model for the registration. We need to subscribe the method take the response. We can see that the subscribe method is not provided by intelligence. Need to check the method. Oops, I forget to return the response. Let's add return for both the methods. Now subscribe it and check the response as a success or not. If you get his success response, then navigate to the login window. To navigate to the login window we need to import another service from Angular, that is the router. Go to the constructor and add that. Now pass the parameter for navigate to the login window. If we do not get the success response, then simply print logged with a failed message. Let's do some refactoring to look beautiful. That's all for user registration. To do the same thing for the user login, Copy the code from here and go inside the login.component.ts file and paste the code inside the onLogin submit method. We also need to inject auth service and router. Do that at the constructor. And then you should change the method from register user to authenticate user and also change the navigate parameter from login to register. In a real application, maybe we will navigate the user to the dashboard or some other page after successful login. For demo purpose, I think this is okay to navigate to the register window. I forgot to import the HTTP module at app.module file, as we are using HTTP from Angular, and that's why we need to import the HTTP module, otherwise we get the error. So go to the file and add the HTTP module in the imports array. We'll rearrange the library import from our custom import file. Now go back to the command window of client projects and build the project. Go to the browser and refresh the page. Fill up with user registration information, name, email and password, then hit the register button. You can see the navigation to the login window, so we can think the user is registered successfully. Let's check that in the database. Open the MongoDB campus, refresh the user document. You can see here 3 users and last one contains the data we enter in the registration form. Now check the login form is at work. Give the email and password, hit the login button. You can see it redirect to the register window. So we can say that our API is working and the front and back end communication is working as an expectation. Thank you for watching my video. Please feel free to give feedback on this. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel.